Hey guys, what's up? What's up? Back again with another video, and please hit up the likes and get to me in the comment section. Do you know what I mean? And also share the video on all social media platforms. I'm back again with another show. The subject of this show is the racism scandal in the women's international team, like obviously the England team. I came across this today and I thought to myself, you know what? I'll tell you what, every time I was painting today, yeah, and every time I look at my hands, there's always some paint that I left on there. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, it's gone. So I came across this today on YouTube, and I thought to myself, you know what, I have to do a part one on this, okay? I'm going to have to do a part one on this, and then obviously a part two will actually follow. Do you know what I mean? Yes, all right, man. What do you have? Part one will, part two will follow. So it's about the racism and the surrounding the women England team and the scandal involved in it. Do you know what I mean? Which we will get to. Basically, in the day, the equality, well, a lack of equality, to be fair, in England's women team. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't surprise me because, like, obviously, the England men's team have had their fair share, and obviously on the terraces of the local clubs and so forth. And racism in England has been a long-term problem in England. And I feel that it's always going to be a problem if you don't tackle it. And it's never been tackled, especially in England. It's always been swept under the carpet. So I'm going to go through this video. Okay, I'm going to set it up now. Yes, we are ready to go. We are ready to go. I've got it all set up. So, right, we're going to get into this video. And this lady here, she's going to explain basically what I've come to talk about. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, there will be a part two to this. So without no further ado, let's get into it. And obviously, I'll stop and start it as you know already.
Women's football in England this past year, there's a good chance you've seen these headlines. And obviously, this isn't unique to women's football in England. Racist abuse happens towards players across men's and women's football all over the world. The English press in particular, though, has a long, ugly history when it comes to race and football, notoriously throwing black players of the men's national team under the bus at the first opportunity. Yep,
that is true. I mean, you know, I'll get rid of this. If we look at sort of like, if we go far back as, you know, when John Barnes used to play for England, do you know what I mean? He had to give up his England career because of that. Do you know what I mean? And considering that today this has been racism has always reared its ugly head in football, whether it be the men's or women. Do you know what I mean? You know, or you know, with your local clubs, like, you know, if you support West Ham, if you support Tottenham, if you support Arsenal, if you support Liverpool, Man United, Man City, and so on, you know, obviously you get the picture. If you support like any of those teams, right? If you support any of those teams, you know the racism that was that's involved, and considering that still up to this day, 2025, you know. the black players, whether it be the female squad or whether it be the men's squad, do you know what I mean? Still have to go through this in 2025. It's ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? It's really ridiculous, and it goes to show when you know, obviously when you brush these things on the carpet, make it look like there is no sort of like problem at all. It's always going to come back. It's always going to come back. Let's get back on it.
Like, this article that came out during the Women's Euros is just insane. Like, we are talking about the same Chloe Kelly, right? You can call that woman a lot of things. Humble's not one of them. Not much has been discussed about race in English women's football, though, and that's a problem because women's football in England has had its own troubled relationship with race, one that still shapes how fans and even players talk about black players today. Just this past international window, when England played Brazil, a lot of fans were exposed for, being racist. Like, what is this tweet, man? I mean, the comments on TikTok aren't much better. I'll get more into why this kind of rhetoric is apparent with these South American teams, but not towards the English team, which also is a very physical team and shithousery team. Imagine this. One of the players on your national team speaks out and says the coach has been making racist remarks towards her and other black players on the team. But instead of rallying around her, most of the white players defend the coach. Then that same coach gets sacked.
See, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. When people defend racism, how are we supposed to, literally get a handle on it? You know what I mean? How's it supposed to sort of like, how are we supposed to solve it if you've got people defending racism, like say, to say like, don't make much trouble and so forth. Do you know what I mean? Really what you're thinking at the day, right, is like, if you're all like teammates and stuff, right? What affects one affects all. Do you know what I mean? Sorry about this. What affects one affects all. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, well, that person's not talking about me because I'm not saying color skin as that person. No, it affects all. And until we have that, how can I say, togetherness, you're always going to have the problem. You're always going to have people saying don't make too much trouble. Now, I would say now, right, Lucy Bronze, yeah, she's a wrong one. She's actually a wrong one, and it was actually this woman here would actually explain what I mean when I say she's a wrong one. Jill Scott is another one, is a wrong one. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and she will explain why Jill Scott is a wrong one, and I will react to them both. One second. Let's get this started back up again.
Not for racism, but because it turns out he was a nonce who had a relationship with a youth player. Then everything comes out. It's confirmed that he did make those racist remarks. The player who outed him is never called up to the national team again. Yet,
one thing I don't agree with this one, when she says about like he's a nonce. Yeah, one thing I don't agree with. Right. I need to explain something to this lady of how this nonce thing works. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. I'm no expert, but I do know how it. You know what I mean? How, put it this way, how it works in the way that you can call somebody a nonce. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. To me, a nonce is a person that would literally, have sexual relations with a minor. You know what I mean? So that means a person under the age of 16. You know what I mean? That's what I say a nonce is. Now, as she would explain, right, in this video, the guy may have been a racist, but he wasn't a nonce. Do you know what I mean? Because the relationships he had with the girls, there was 16 and over. Now, 16 in this country is legal age. So you could say morally at the end of the day, it wasn't the right thing to do. But legally, you know what I mean? Legally at the end of the day, he had no case to answer. Do you know what I mean? Legally, he can do it. Now, would I do something like that? No, I wouldn't. But I'm just saying that today, legally, he didn't do anything wrong. Do you know what I mean? So I think this lady should just stick to be calling him a racist. Just stick to that. Okay, that's my little bit on that one.
The players who defended the racist pervert face no consequences. Well, that's what happened to the England women's national team in 2017. And this may shock some of you. Women's football fandom has grown so much in the past few years, especially in England after the 2022 Euros win. So a lot of people just may not be aware of the history of the national team before that. And that's why we're here. Because when people talk about players now who's classy, likable, a leader, or lazy, that old narrative still lingers. And the fact that 2017 was never really reckoned with is a big reason for this. This is obviously going to be more of a sensitive video. A lot of the players involved in that 2017 scandal are still very present in the national team space, either playing or working in the media. And I'll also be talking about more recent comments from certain players that come off as, at best, pretty ignorant. In this video, we'll go over 4 things. 1, the history of Black women in the English women's national team. 2, the 2017 race scandal, the continued ignorance of some players, and of course, how attitudes about race still shape how both media and fans talk about players of color today. Black women's players have actually kind of really been with the English national team since its inception. The first national team was formed in England in 1972 after the ban on women playing football in England was lifted, which, yeah, I know, completely wild sentence to even say, 1972. Just about a decade later,
Imagine that, imagine that, right? Women were banned from playing football. Banned, Fuck's sake. No, that's just bollocks, isn't it? It's just literally bollocks. Women were actually banned. Now, just take that in, yeah? Prior 1972, yeah? Right? I was like 4 years old, yeah? I was 4 years old in 1972. You know what I mean? Prior to that, women was not allowed to play football. That's disgusting, man. I tell you, man. Seriously. These people, at the end of the day, need to take a hard look at themselves. Seriously, a really long, hard look at themselves.
First ever Black Lioness was called up, Carrie Davis. She went on to represent England in the first ever Women's European Championship in 1984. 2 other Black players were called up in the 80s, Hope Powell and Brenda St-Pierre. All 3 were huge names in the domestic game, especially with Croydon Women, one of the most important clubs in the early days of English women's football. When England qualified for their first ever World Cup in 1995, 4 of the 20 players were Black. This included Carrie, Powell, St-Pierre, and Samantha Britton. There was then an explosion of talent in the late 90s and 2000s. The legendary Rachel Yankey made her debut in 1997, Anita Asante in 2003, Alex Scott in 2004, Eniola Aluko also in 2004, and Leanne Sanderson in 2006. They're later to be joined by Jessica Clark, Demi Stokes, and Drew Spence.
I got to look at Alex Scott again, man. Stop that.
First ever World Cup in 1995, 4 of the 20 players were Black. This included Carrie, Powell, St-Pierre, and Samantha Britton. There was then an explosion of talent in the late 90s and 2000s. The legendary Rachel Yankey made her debut in 1997, Anita Asante in 2003, Alex Scott.
Look at Alex Scott. Look at Alex Scott. Oh my God. Sorry, it just looks funny. I'm sorry. I shouldn't laugh. Right.
In 2004, Eniola Aluko also in 2004, and Leanne Sanderson.
This woman here, Leanne Sanderson, I didn't know she was mixed race. I did not know she was mixed race, Leanne Sanderson. I thought she was a white woman. Real talk, I thought she was a white woman. Real talk. She just kind of managed these days to bum look like. I lie. I didn't know she was like that was she was like considered as a black woman. Because obviously she's mixed race, but I consider mixed race people as black, to be honest. Do you know what I mean? You get me? But I didn't even know. Did not even know. That's something new every day.
In 2006, they're later to be joined by Jessica Clark, Demi Stokes, and Drew Spence in the 2010s. Yankey, Alex Scott, and Aluko became 3 of England's best players during that whole period. The total number of Black players who have represented the English women's national team still remains pretty shockingly low. Now, the player we really need to focus on here is Eniola Aluko. Now, before we really get into this, I know her reputation's a little bit different now as a pundit, but we are talking about Eniola Aluko, the player. So put those feelings you have of her aside of her of a pundit, because the football player, oh my God, she was good. She signed for Birmingham City Women in 2001, a top flight team, at only 14 years old. Just 3 years later, at the age of 17, she was called up to English women's national team, and she had all the hype in the world. Just 7 years later, in 2014, she was considered to be one of the best players in England and featured for them in every major tournament, playing a large part in England's 2015 World Cup campaign, where they finished third. Their best results ever at that point under head coach Mark Sampson. Then, out of nowhere, she stopped getting called up in 2016 at only the age of 29. She was still one of Chelsea's best players and easily one of the top forwards in the Women's Super League, so nobody knew what was going on. Then 2017 rolled around. England reached the semi-finals of the Euros but lost to the eventual champions Netherlands. It seemed like the team was building something. And then a bombshell dropped. After the Euros, the Daily Mail of all publications reported that Aluko had actually filed a bullying and harassment complaint against head coach Mark Sampson back in 2016. The FA supposedly investigated, found no wrongdoing, but quietly paid her $80,000.
This is the one. This is the guy that they're saying that they're actually saying is the racist and also had questionable relationships and stuff. This is the guy. Let's talk about Mark Sampson.
Pounds and basically blackballed her from the team. You know, just something someone innocent would do. News outlets also released the nature of the alleged remarks as having racial and prejudicial connotations. Aluko came out publicly and said that the reports were true. Sampson made racist remarks against her and another black player on the team. The player was later revealed to be Drew Spence, who confirmed Aluko's story. And here's the thing. The FA didn't even properly investigate it.
You see, that's what I'm talking about. You see, this is what I'm talking about. How are you supposed to solve the problem of racism, right? If the FA is not doing anything about it, how are you supposed to do that? Do you know what I mean? You know, like they've done the same thing, right, with Anton Ferdinand. FA done the same thing. Do you know what I mean? When it comes to Anton Ferdinand, right? Causing his mother to die, Anton Ferdinand's mum to die of stress. They've done the same thing. They literally was calling Anton Ferdinand a liar. I'm gonna try and get the documentary of one with Anton Ferdinand, and I'm gonna try and sort of like react to it as well. But they literally call him a liar. They literally call him a liar. And when it was plain to see, that 1 hour before they took it down, because it was only up for an hour, it was plain to see that John Terry was racially abused Anton Ferdinand. You can see it. Now, people will say about sort of like Luis Suarez, the only difference with that is nobody knew that Luis Suarez said it at that time. Do you know what I mean? It was an investigation that went in. Investigation went in, and he admitted that, yeah, I did say that, because he honestly didn't think he said anything wrong. You know what I mean? Yeah? Well, that is questionable. Do you understand what I'm saying, right? But, excuse me. My argument is like nobody really saw what Luis Suarez done. But however, everybody saw what John Terry done. That is a difference. Do you know what I mean? Yeah? Then the FA at the end of the day, right, if you're not going to protect, you know what I mean, players of a different color when they come under abuse, yeah? Well, excuse me. To be fair, then what use do you have? You know what I mean? And what use do you have? It's just bollocks, man. It really is bollocks, and I'm just pissed off with it.
It's about the comments at all. They were just covering for Sampson. Now, the FA, the English governing body of football, covering up a racism scandal and then silencing the player who complained, obviously sent shockwaves throughout the English media. Aluko's story empowered former black players to come out and speak about their experience under Sampson and the English women's national team. Right after the first reports came out, former Lioness Leanne Sanderson, another black player who played for Sampson.
Look at her there. Look at Leanne Sanderson there. I didn't even know what she was mixed race. I didn't even know, man. You know what I mean? And she casts herself as black still. You know what I mean? Because she come out and said this. Boy, I didn't even know, bro. I didn't even know. Man. Look at her there, man. She looks a bit kind of, well, she looks kind of boorish still, you know, to her ask that. So, yeah, man, I don't know. But yeah, let's carry on.
15 World Cup spoke out in support of Aluko. Sanderson said to the team, quote, "I think it's a matter of everyone must conform. I think there's a lot of bias there and subconscious manipulation. It's an environment where you're not allowed to have an opinion, and any kind of opinion is the wrong one." Anita Sante said she had a similar experience to Aluko, being suddenly dropped from the team with no explanation, even though she was playing at one of the best clubs in the world. She said the culture made players fearful of speaking up and that she felt completely ostracized. Yet when current White Lionesses were asked about it, they defended Mark Sampson.
Yeah.
After Aluko.
This is where I say that Lucy Bronze at the day, right? You know what I mean? And people like her and Jules Scott, I look at them really differently now. I seriously look at them differently now. Do you know what I mean? It's wrong. Oh man.
Spoke out, England's Jodie Taylor, of all people, gave multiple interviews with outlets like the BBC dismissing Aluko, saying that there's no racism in the team and that the England squad are closer together following the accusations against Sampson. United in what? Racism? I mean, it's really interesting and telling, really, how they said the coach.
You know what it is at the end of the day? That's just like the how can I put this in a way that sort of like you understand without doing okay. Trying to think how I can put this. Okay. We got a thing in our black culture and they from the slavery days. And we got this thing that we say, right? You got the house Negro and the field Negro. Do you know what I mean? So the house Negro, right, would defend Massa's house, yeah, with his life, yeah, right? When Massa's sick, you know what I mean? When Massa's sick, right, he's sick. And he'll say, like, are we sick? Do you know what I mean? If Massa's hungry, he'll say, are we hungry? He'll do everything to please Massa. Do you know what I mean? He'll do everything for Massa. Whilst the field Negro wants to separate from Massa, because the field Negro is not getting treated right at all. You know what I mean? There's a little inch of humanity with the house Negro, but with the field Negro, there's no humanity at all. And when I see that Juliet, whatever her name is, and she looks to me, and then she looks kind of mixed. You know what I mean? Yeah. When I see people like her, you know what I mean, defending people like that Mark Sampson, knowing what he said to people like Adoka and so on. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. That just reminds me of the house Negro. But like they don't call sort of like women house Negroes, they call them bed wenches. That's what they call them. You know what I mean? And this is not something I'm making up. You can look it up. You can look it up yourself. Listen to Malcolm X's speeches, and he'll tell you all you need to know about people that would that will stand people of color that will stand up for racism. Do you know what I'm saying? And we've still got a lot of them running around. You know. So please excuse me if I've offended anybody with the term Negro, but that's the only way I can explain it because that's what it is. You know what I mean, it is what it is.
Which is something racist. Yet the players took it to attack on them. The England squad had a World Cup qualifying game against Russia on September 19th. So yeah, this is all.
Watch this. Watch what happens. And this will explain at the end of the day what I mean. What I just said, this will explain what I mean.
Happening within like 1 month.
Look,
After Nikita Parris scored for England, she ran up to Samson and hugged him. Every England player on the pitch or on the bench joined in on the embrace. Clear, simple, in support of Samson and against Aluko.
This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Do you know what I mean? That kind of sellout business in the day, right? You're willing to sell out your race of people and think that his racist comments don't apply to you just so you can get a spot in the team. That's just bollocks. That's just bollocks. I'm not feeling that. I'm not feeling that at all. Not feeling that. And this is what I hope you guys understand what I'm saying now. When I talk about these terms of house Negro and field Negro, the field Negro wouldn't do anything of what the house Negro would do. Do you know what I mean? And the house Negro will separate themselves from the field Negro. That's what it is. It is what it is. And the bed wenches will separate themselves at the day from sort of like, you know, from like the actual women that used to work in the field. Seriously. Because they think it doesn't apply to them.
Sanderson, Asante, and Aluko all came out after the celebration and obviously criticized the players.
Look at that.
Lines were drawn. Nikita Parris years later would apologize to Aluko. Midfielder Jordan Nobbs immediately defended the celebration. Quote,
you know what it is in the day? If that Nikita Parris didn't come and apologize to me, I tell her go ahead. Because I don't want your apologies. You know what I mean? I always say anything. When you get a situation when people come and apologize to you for something they've done or something they've been a part of, I always say, don't be sorry, do better. Simple as that. Don't be sorry, do better. So, no, I want to take an apology for that. She can go ahead. I mean,
it has been a tough time for all of us. Oh yeah, you guys are the real victim here. But what we've been doing over the past few years since Mark's been with the squad is developing a together team and a hard-working team. Getting to 2 semifinals in major tournaments, it doesn't just come out of the blue. So according to Jordan Nobbs, racism is okay if the football is good. Got it. However, this love fest only lasted 1 day. A day after the game, Samson was sacked by the FA on September 20th.
This is what I was saying about sort of like the fine lines between calling something a nonce and not calling it a nonce. This is a fine line, and this explains it. Watch this.
2017. Not because of Aluko's and Spence's allegations a month before, though. No. But because it was found that Samson had inappropriate relationships with multiple female players while he was the manager at Bristol Academy, including a 6-month relationship with...
Hold on. I can't read this right. The alleged relations, the allegations relate to Samson's time at Bristol Academy, where he worked first with 10 to 6 years. Oh, well then, yeah, he's a nonce then. He is a nonce. Because if they're talking about what they're talking about, what I think they're talking about, he is with 10 to 16-year-olds at the Center of Excellence, and later as the senior first team coach. The allegations were made by more than one player and are said by the FA chairman Greg Clark to range from the trivial to very serious. Okay, let's say a bit more about this.
The 18-year-old player. This is the guy all the England players are the real victim here. But what we've been doing over the past few years since Mark's been with the squad is developing a together team and a hard-working team. Getting to 2 semifinals in major tournaments, it doesn't just come out of the blue. So according to Jordan Nobbs, racism is okay if the football is good. Got it. However, this love fest only lasted 1 day. A day after the game, Samson was sacked by the FA on September 20th, 2017. Not because of Aluko's and Spence's allegations a month before, though. No. But because it was found that Samson had inappropriate relationships with multiple female players while he was the manager at Bristol Academy, including a 6-month relationship with an 18-year-old player. This is a guy all the England.
Well, that's not really bad. She's 18 years old. She's 18 years old. Do you know what I mean? You know, I'm not defending him, I know it, but I'm just saying it today. You have to, all right, before you call somebody a nonce, yeah? Before you call somebody a nonce, right? Because it's all the rage now these days. Before you call somebody a nonce, you have to sort of like explain yourself more properly than the way you are. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You have to give details. Did he have sex with somebody under the age of 16? If so, he's a nonce. If he didn't have sex with somebody under the age of 16, he's not a nonce. You know what I mean? If it's 16 upwards, 16 up to 18, 19, and maybe 20. I'm not too sure. Yes, that's young, but he's not a nonce. You know what I mean? You know, so you have to be very clear in your wording of calling somebody a nonce. Do you know what I'm saying? I know I am. If I call somebody a nonce, I know at the end of the day, that he's had sex with somebody under the age of 16. Do you know what I'm saying? I get my cross the I's and dot the T's, put that way. All right, let's get back on to it. I'm going to give you a few more sort of like a few more minutes of it before I summarize it, and then they obviously
players defending, by the way. In October, English members of parliament started an investigation into the handling by the FA of Aluko's complaint. It was revealed that Martin Glenn, the chief executive of the FA, insinuated that he would release the rest of Aluko's, quote, hush money if she released a statement saying that the FA wasn't institutionally racist. As a result of the hearing, the FA finally apologized to Aluko and Spence after it was confirmed that they were subject to racist, discriminatory remarks by Mark Sampson and his staff. Many MPs called for members of the FA to resign based on their mishandling of Aluko's first complaint because they, basically blackmailed her. Despite all of this, an official government inquiry, English players still defended their actions and showed no remorse for Aluko, Spence, or any of the black players that talked about their negative experiences under Sampson. Jill Scott said this when asked about the celebration with the ousted manager who was confirmed to make racist remarks. Quote, it's hard for people on the outside to judge because they don't know what we'd all been through in the previous few months.
You've been through nothing, mate. You haven't been through anything. So what are you talking about? It's a blasted horse.
It's very disappointing to see our integrity questioned. No shit, your integrity's being questioned. Also, I'm sorry, similar to the Knobs thing, why are you guys acting like the victims here? Quote, it's not just about the players, it's about seeing what the families of those involved go through. I'm sure it was all hard for you white players. Yeah, I'm so sure, not the black players who had racist remarks against them. The celebration was the team showing their togetherness. We all celebrated. The team, the bench, everybody. It was emotional and spontaneous, and I don't think it's something anyone else can really comment on. They didn't live in our culture and our environment through that period. It was a very heartfelt response. And an emotional one? Well,
she's a wrong one anyway. Jill Scott's a wrong one anyway. I think that's her name, isn't it? Jill Scott? She's a wrong one anyway. Do you know what I mean? She's just a wrong one. Do you know what I mean? She can't expect anything different out of her. She's a wrong one.
For one, I'm so happy that you got that emotional response with a guy who got sacked for being a sexual predator. Oh, you thought that was it? No. Unfortunately, there is more, because many of you have actually been asking me in my comment section what I have against Lucy Bronze. Well,
right, it's coming up now. Now what it is, you've heard why I have called Jill Scott a wrong one. You've heard that now. Now what's coming up in the day before I wrap up part one of this? Okay, this is why Lucy Bronze is a wrong one. This is why she's a wrong one.
You are about to find out. In November 2017, so really a month later after all of this, Lucy Bronze in an interview with the Daily Telegraph, which, should already be raising red flags. Bronze said a lot of things in this interview about the scandal, and oh boy, none of them were the right things to say. She insinuated that Aluko coming out with allegations were a distraction to the team and inconvenient, which, crazy thing to say about racism. Bronze also complained that the scandal overshadowed positivity in the women's game, like her personal move to Olympique Lyon. And most tellingly, Bronze suggested that Aluko, the player who spoke out about racist abuse, was the one who needed to prove she needed to be a team player? I mean, she just framed Aluko's reaction as the real problem, implying she created division just by being upset that the coach was racist towards her. Basically, Bronze is saying that Aluko, who faced racism from the coach and was blackmailed by the FA, should apologize to the team, not the other way around. So again, the players blamed the black woman for speaking up about racism instead of asking themselves why so many black players have spoken up in the past few months. Yes, she said that Aluko, the player who was racially discriminated against, has to apologize to her teammates, the ones who are defending the guy who said racist comments to her. There has really been no attempt by many players to show potential guilt or express their sorriness.
See? Absolutely wrong, man. Absolutely wrong, man. Yeah, what you know what? That's part one of it. I'm going to obviously do part two again. Do you know what I mean? That should come out sometime this week as a video. Listen, I always say it. I've said before, at the end of the day, I don't really, I don't really sort of like see the need for any black player to sort of like play for England. Do you know what I mean? Because all they do, and all that happens, if anything goes wrong, the black people get burned. Do you know what I mean? Right? But they praise you when it's going right. Do you know what I'm saying? The amount of reviews, the amount of stuff they get in the papers, you know what I mean? Like, you know, they create divisions between the black players and the white players. I'm just thinking to myself, if I had a son, and he, you know, we got called to play for England, I'll say, no, it's not worth it, bro. It's just not worth it, son. It's just not worth it, because they're only going to blame you, and then when it goes wrong, you know what I mean? They're only going to racially abuse you whenever they feel like it. Do you know what I mean? You know, like, I just think to a lot of black players, yeah, that should play for their sort of like parents' country. Do you know what I mean? Leave it to them, man. Let them have it. You know what I mean? They ain't gonna win anything anyway. They ain't gonna win anything without you. Make them have it. Do you know what I mean? You know, and it's just like the FA to me, and they don't do anything about it. You know what I mean? The FA, and they always seem to sort of like, to me, always seem to kind of like sit in their hands, so they can't be bothered. Do you realize the first black player that was allowed to represent his country, was in 1978? 1978, I was what, 9 years old? That's disgusting, considering how long black people have been in this country and how long they've been playing football. Do you know what I mean? They was not allowed to represent the country of their birth because of the color of their skin. Do you know what I mean? You had that. I'm sure that guy, Alf Ramsey. I'm sure he apparently. I mean, I will look it up, but I'm pretty sure that he was a supporter of apartheid. Do you know what I mean? Come on now, seriously. That tells you all. You got a guy and they running the England team, but he's a supporter of a fascist regime. It makes no sense. Do you know what I mean? You know, and like, but I'll save it for my next video. What I was gonna say, I'll save it for my next video. But listen, hit me up in the comment section. Yeah, let me know what you think about part one of this video. Do you know what I mean? Let me know what you think, and then also hit the like button as well. You know what I mean? And also put in the comment section what you think should be done about racism in the game. Do you know what I mean? In order to stamp it out. Okay. So yeah. So I shall be back to you'll see me again. I'll be putting out videos on top of videos and stuff. So like, yeah, just hit up the like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and also hit me up in the comment section and let me know what you think about the points on this video and all that fun stuff. Just do it all for me, yeah? Love and respect. Peace. We're out.